Hey guys, welcome to another video. This week it's my 50th video and I'm going to do some Halloween crafts. This first craft is just a paint your own house kit that I bought. I'm going to take it a step further and use my own supplies and materials to make it better. I'm going to start by priming the surface with some acrylic gesso. This will hopefully make it so that I don't have to do as many coats of the paint. And then once that's dry, I'm moving on to the paint color itself. I am going to paint this house purple. It's one of my favorite colors and I thought it would be a good color for Halloween. But I realized as I was painting this that the color straight from the tube was a little too dark, so I lightened it up with a little bit of white paint and had to go over everything a couple more times to get it to the right color. But with the house drying, I'm going to move on to the base. So I'm using a Cork trivet along with some green felt to create the yard that surrounds the house. As you can see, I'm using 2 pieces of felt to cover the base. Realistically, this could be done with 1 sheet of felt. I just was trying to use up some of my scraps since that's what I had. And I'm just hot gluing the felt directly to the cork, making sure to get all the edges glued down so that they don't bubble up. And for going around the edge of the trivet itself, I'm just making sure that I really get as close to the edge with the glue as possible, and also pull the felt taut so that it doesn't create any air pockets, and to minimize the amount of wrinkles. And then I'm just cutting off the excess and touching up some of the edges with some extra hot glue. Once the base is covered in felt, it's time to map out where the house is going to sit. So I'm going to do that using some popsicle sticks. I want to be able to remove the house from the base, so I want to create a slot for it to fit. So I'm just going to hot glue the popsicle sticks to the base all the way around the house until I get to the back of the house. I also have to plan for a battery pack to sit behind the house, and I don't necessarily want to see just a battery pack, so I'm going to create a little fenced in area using some longer popsicle sticks just to camouflage that a bit better. And I'm just going to hot glue that to the base as well. I'm also going to hot glue a few small squares of popsicle stick in the corners where the house is going to sit. That way it props it up just enough to slip the wire from the battery pack up under the house. Once I have that all figured out, I'm just painting all of the edges black and the fence in the back. And while that dries, I'm moving back over to the house and painting the roof and steps leading up to the front door black as well. I'm adding a few black paint smudges to the outside of the house to give it more of a weathered look that I assume a haunted house would have. With the house sitting on the base, it seemed like something was missing in the front, so I'm creating a small set of stairs that will lead to the front door to give the house some more dimension. Luckily, I was able to use my popsicle stick cutter to split the popsicle sticks in half to create thinner strips for the steps and the railings. Then just painted them to match. And to give the yard a little bit more detail, I'm taking a coarse brush and some black paint and dabbing it along the green felt. And now it's time to move back over to the house and finish that up. So I'm taking some brown paint and painting over the windows and doors. With all of the paint dry, I'm ready to start putting things together and add some finishing touches. And that's going to include putting some batteries in the battery pack for the lights and feeding the lights into the house. I also want to add a few more things to the yard, including some pumpkins. I actually used some fiberfill and just rolled that into a tight ball to create the pumpkins. I was considering using clay, but found that this was an easier option and that it would still look pretty cute without taking nearly as much time. So then I'm just going to take some orange paint and cover these little poof balls that I've created. And I actually took out some gloves for this so that I didn't get my fingers covered in orange paint. Next, I'm taking a black foam sheet and some thin jewelry wire. And what I'm going to do with the jewelry wire is just create a small spring out of it. And I'm just going to do that by winding it around the end of this paintbrush. And then with the black foam sheet, I'm going to cut out the shape of a bat. I'm going to use some hot glue to attach the spring onto the back of the bat. And then I'm going to glue the other end of the spring to the top of the house. I'm also going to use the black foam to create a couple of tombstones and a metallic marker to add a few details to those. And then I just have to glue on all of the pieces and create some stems for the pumpkins. And for those I'm going to use the black foam as well and some green paint and just hot glue those to the top of each pumpkin. And the last thing to do is just check to see how it looks with the light on. And on to the next craft. These next two are a little bit shorter compared to the haunted house. You'll just need some solid colored socks, some fiberfill, a needle and thread, hot glue, and some felt. So I'm just cutting the toe off of this first sock. Then I'm just going to fill that toe of the sock with some fiberfill. Once I have enough stuffing, I'm going to sew up the end. And this is going to be a small pumpkin. And then going through the center of the pumpkin with the needle and thread, I'm just wrapping the thread around until I have 6 equal sections. Unfortunately, I wasn't thinking this through and didn't leave enough room in the thread to tie a knot. So I'm going to try and salvage this first one by hot gluing that thread to the center of the pumpkin. And luckily I was able to save it. So I'm just sewing the last piece of thread around to create the last section and tying a knot. And now onto the stem. I'm going to take a piece of green felt and I'm going to roll that up until I have a decent sized stem. And then I'm going to cut some little sections in the bottom of the stem. And then I'll just hot glue that in place on top of the pumpkin. So that's one pumpkin down. I'm going to make a few other colors, but following the same steps, and this time I'll remember to have enough thread to tie a knot. So those are my sock pumpkins. And on to the final craft. There is a template in the description for this one, as well as a list of all the other materials that I've used throughout this video, and the materials you need for this project as well. So first thing to do to make these felt witches hats is to cut out the template. And once I have the template cut out, it's time to use the template to cut out some felt sheets. So the small square buckle is going to be cut from gold felt, and I'm going to make 3 hats total. So I'm going to triple what the template requires. And then I'm going to use some sparkly black felt to cut out the circle for the base of the hat, as well as this triangular piece that will form the cone shape of the top of the hat. Then it's time to decide the color of the belt that will wrap around the base of the hat. I've chosen neon green, purple, and a dandelion yellow. I'm also going to measure out a small piece of yarn. And then I'm going to glue the hats together, starting with the triangular piece to form a cone for the top of the hat, Then going around the base of that and gluing it to the circular piece, wrapping the belt around, folding the top of the hat in half and gluing that, and then placing the buckle on the front of the hat. Optionally, you can add a piece of black yarn to the top of the hat to give it something to hang from, or you can just set them out as is. I'm going to make a couple more of these, but that wraps up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Happy Halloween, and I'll see you next week.